So first, namespace. So Drupal system form, I think we can replace system with trails. All right, and then the class name here is image toolkit form. Let's replace that with trails settings form. All right, so we have this protected available toolkits. I don't think we're going to need that, so I'm going to cut out that and the comments associated with it. Then we have our constructor, and if we look at how this works, it looks like it's taking config factory interface and image toolkit manager. Now I'm guessing that because this is a setting, that we're going to be dealing with the configuration management instead of state. So config factory interface is something that I would assume would be part of the default construction for this Trails setting. So what I'm evaluating right now is, do we really need this constructor because it's an override of the parent constructor? And when we look at the code inside, what's happening is it calls the parent instructor, and then what it does is loop through this get available toolkits and add some items to this object based on that. So I'm kind of guessing that we should be able to just use the parent constructor and cut this out altogether, but I want to see what the structure of this is. So I'm going to do a command click on the parent construct. Okay, so this gets past config factory interface, and it sets the config factory. And even though we're not sure exactly how that works just yet, that sounds about right. I don't think we need to do anything with the image toolkit manager. So I'm going to delete all of this as well. So we're removing the constructor here. So the next method here is create, which looks like it's part of the parent class as well, so we're overriding it. And if we look at this, it looks like we're getting the container factory and image toolkit manager. And this kind of makes me wonder if maybe we're overriding just so we can plug in this image toolkit manager. So let's look at the parent method and see what the signature is there. So I'm going to go to config form base. Okay, so it looks identical here, container get config factory. We just don't have the image toolkit manager getting pulled in as well. So I think we can safely remove this too, since it's just pulling in that extra item. All right, and so now we have get form ID, and it returns system image toolkit settings. So I think we can change this to Trails settings. Now, if you were watching these videos in order and you just saw me explain how annotations are used in the block plugin classes, then you're probably wondering, hey, why can't we just do this same exact thing, but in the block classes as well? The difference is that with the block plugins, sometimes we want that metadata on its own without loading up the block code. But with forms, we typically will want the form ID along with the rest of the form too. Okay, so we'll leave this as is now that we've changed the ID. Let's scroll down. So we have build form. So I think this is pretty straightforward. This must be where our form is built. You can see that we're adding items to the form here. Now our form is going to have just one input that is a select box that allows you to choose between a set of numbers. So let's keep this item here and remove the rest of it. We don't really need any of this. So I'm going to cut that out. And we can also cut out this current toolkit here. We don't need that either. Okay, so this input should work. Let's go ahead and copy the input from our settings form and compare these and copy over any settings or values that we need from our old form. So I'm going to jump to the code base for our module. I'm going to pop up to the base directory here, and we'll open up trails.admin.inc. And I'm just going to copy this input and go back to our Trails settings form class. And I'm just going to paste it in right here, and we'll compare them side by side. So what we're going to do is go through these items, and if there's anything different in here, we're going to pull it into this form element. So this first line looks pretty much identical. The type we're choosing select. In title, we're using the T function, but it looks like we're using this T here. So I'm going to copy this T and paste it here. Okay. And in options, we have Drupal map assoc, and this is orange, indicating that this function is no longer in existence. So let's do a quick change record search to see if that pulls up anything. I'm going to copy Drupal map assoc. I'm going to go over to the change records and put in Drupal map assoc, apply. Ah, okay, it's been removed. This should give us information on what we can do now. So before we would do Drupal map assoc and then my array. And it looks like in the current D8, what we're going to do is array combine, and we're going to pass in the array twice. Okay, we can do that. So I'm going to copy this here, I'm going to go back to our editor, and I'm going to paste this in, and I'm going to copy this range. And what range does is just create an array from the first item to the last item. And I'll just paste this in twice. We could also isolate this out into its own variable up above and just use it once. But this should be functional at this point.